Post by XY1Cal0WLX. When I was 11, I let my parents think I'd shipped the TV because I was angry that they were arguing. The truth was that I was hyped up and swinging around a broom while watching Mortal Kombat. I chipped the TV while they were out of town. I waited for them to get home, worried the entire time. When they arrived, I expected to get screamed at, maybe even attacked. I thought that day was going to be the last day I ever saw my Nintendo 64. Instead, they both gave me a hug and blamed themselves. Posted by SkyGroundbreaking882. I hid the tablespoon measure from my flatmate who had an ED. She would always measure out peanut butter for sandwiches. I totally understand measuring it out once to see what a serving looks like, but this was excessive and I was tired of the measuring spoons always being dirty. The measuring spoons were mine, so I started keeping them in my room and bringing them out when I wanted to use them. Nearly 10 years later, this still makes me cringe regularly. I knew very little about EDs at the time, but it was so unbelievably petty. Posted by Fair Platform 9314. I used the candygram system to spread chaos in my middle school. Lighthearted confession here. In middle school, we had an evening party once a quarter with dancing, sports, bingo, etc. They also sold candygrams for 50 cents, which would deliver a little note with a bag of candy to the recipient. I learned that if you purchased candygrams at the end of the night, they would be delivered during school the next day, and my plan was born. I would spend $2 to $5 and send anonymous I like you notes to random people and watch everyone freak out the next day and check handwritings to figure out who sent it. I never told anyone, but I did get bored after a year of doing this and stopped for the most part. Long live middle school drama.
Comment from Candid Freedom 855. We would have been great middle school friends. My similar confession, in freshman year of high school, I would call the popular senior girls, saying I was a different guy in my class, and ask if they would invite me to prom as their date. It went as far as me telling them I had invited the popular guy they liked to go to Six Flags with me and she could come too if she let me be her date. So obviously, when these people compared notes, they thought the guy I impersonated was an insane loser. Later, I escalated the prank a little further and ended up having to deal with the police. The lessons I learned at age 15.
Posted by ThrowRA_AVL. I bullied a girl in my class when I was in 2nd grade. So, it's been about 14 years I was in 2RD grade, and there was this girl who once accidentally, probably ick if it was intentional, threw ink on me. I cried almost instantly since I thought my mom would be mad regardless of what I tell her. I went to home, but my mother wasn't mad and she understood, but I was still stressed. So, on the next day, I decided to stick bubble gum on her hair, causing her to cut it really short. I was really sorry about it since after this incident she became quite sad for next few days. She had really beautiful long hair that she was really proud of. We became friends the next year, and we have been friends till this day. We even attended the same high school and had the same friend group, and she is one of my closest friends. But she doesn't know I was the guy who did that to her, and I can't seem to find the courage to confess this to her. Update. So I finally confessed to her about it. And her reaction was what you guys expected, but I didn't. She laughed. So you were that guy. I was stunned, and she told me it was okay. She was indeed mad at the time, but as we grew older, that incident became a faint memory. She no longer lines it against me. Boy, was I relieved to hear that like some weight lifted of my chest. Posted by Pirate2499. I used to mess with people in the Appalachian Mountains to make them think they were haunted. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains and lived there my entire life. There are a lot of legends and myths around here I have a lot of respect for because they come from another culture, and who am I ultimately to disrespect others' cultures? I also think there is some truth to some of it. Anyone who grew up here has experienced screaming in the woods, phantom footsteps in the woods, whispering, etc. Probably just bobcats, paranoia in the wind, but whatever. Or other asshole kids like us. It started when I was 12 and one of our neighbors decided to prank us. For a straight month they would bang on our windows at 1 a.m. It scared the life out of us. I thought it was a legit ghost or Wendigo until my dad managed to catch one of their backs in the porch light as they ran into the woods. My brothers and I decided to get payback, so we started messing with all the houses close to us because we still didn't know who it was. We would stand outside people's houses and scream, bang on windows, leave weird scratches on trees with hatchets. We were little hellions and probably actually terrified people who did nothing wrong. LOL, I still feel terrible over it because at the end of the day, all we knew about the guy we saw running into the woods was tall and dark hair, so he could have been literally anyone. And we just messed with everyone within walking distance, 5 houses.
Question from Kitty Cat Warrior 3593. What is a snipe? Answer: the underscore fire drake. It is a very rare species of flightless rock bird native to the region. They tend to only leave their ground burrows on moonless nights and can be caught using spotlights, noisemakers, and gunny sacks. Their eggs are a delicacy, but they are fiercely guarded and difficult to acquire since they are laid underground. The bird itself has a large overgrown beak like a toucan and sharp splayed talons it uses to dig its burrow, pull grubs from rotting trees, and defend its babies from snakes and rats. A scratch from one of these hollow talons is slightly venomous and can make a young child ill, but it's rarely fatal to people. A snipe's favorite food is bullfrogs, but this is dangerous as well for the snipe because some bullfrogs grow large enough to eat it instead. Seeing one in the wild, let alone catching one, is a true test of skill, cunning, and pure luck.
Confession by Tonage09. I'm currently in the process of falling off the wagon of my best attempt. I consider myself a yo-yo eater, someone who loses the weight, then gains it back, and repeat. Last year was by far my biggest success, losing 85 pounds. I really thought this would be the one, but I can feel myself slipping back. Stop going to the gym, overeating when I don't have to, telling myself at night I'll get it together in the morning, then doing it all over again. Already up 10 pounds. I'm just tired of it all. The worst part is I have a huge support group, and even like that. Confession by ID_MG. I've been battling my weight since I was an adolescent. I'm now 35, and last year I was in peak physical shape. I was posture walking 55 pounds kettlebells and looked ripped. I fell into a depression and gained back most of the weight. I now have this fat guy again and not much muscle left. I look. Okay, but you wouldn't have guessed how much better off I was only a year ago. I wish I never stopped caring. I'm currently trying to manage a deficit again and take care of myself. Save yourself the heartache and just keep yourself on your path. You've been killing it, dude. Don't let it slip away now. Reflections from Peach Lozenge. This may come across as harsh, but it's from my experience and I genuinely believe it. Attempting to lose weight is really irrelevant until you fix your relationship with food. That takes reflection, digging into your past, and making the connection on when food became either an addiction, a comfort, a means of control, etc. And until you do that, your diets will not work. Dieting can help you lose the beginning weight, but a lifestyle you genuinely enjoy is what keeps it off for good. For me, I actually stopped working out completely and removed all restrictions from my diet. I had anorexia that turned into a binge eating disorder that I couldn't shake for years. And finally, I had to just relinquish all these rules I had created for myself and relearn what it meant to eat food to nourish my body and to stop punishing myself with food. Best of luck on your journey. Please remember that when you look back on your life, what really matters is your happiness, the way you make others feel, and the way you feel about yourself. Focus on those factors and take achievable steps to improve in those areas. I think you'll be surprised how the other things fall into place. Mike Fizzy Seat comes in to answer her. This is the take. I've been struggling with food my whole life, and it took me forever to stop looking short-sighted at the number on the scale to how I was actually feeling. My relapses have decreased, and when I do, I actively make an effort to think about why I want this. In addition, when I really can't help cravings, I've tried healthier things like plain popcorn or pickles. Might just be me, I love pickles. I'm for sure not an expert, but I genuinely wished I had found stuff like this on Reddit or even thought to post about it. BC, I spent a lot of time thinking I was alone in it. Confession by Wombat 5003. Listen y'all, I'm coming up on 62 and dropped 85. I don't diet, kinda, and I definitely do not do diet foods. I just watch my carb intake, limit really bad foods, no takeout if possible, and I worked my way to eating smaller meals with more veggies and for a snack, a little Cheerios with lactose-free low-fat milk. I bought a treadmill a number of years ago and do a mile walk, 30 minutes, for days a week and a little to chi. That's it. No big diets, no weights. The weight comes off slowly and stays off as long as you do the above, and it's so easy to maintain. Flash dieting does not work. Tips and tricks from Sad Broken Butterfly. During my weight loss journey, I got some advice that actually helped. I'm going to share it with you. Find a picture or a few of women with fabulous figures wearing slim-fitting clothes, then post them on your fridge and snack cupboard door. The other helpful tip I was given is to go buy a bikini or swimsuit in the size you want to be and hang it in your kitchen as a reminder of your goal. The third thing is to find a photo of a beach destination you'd like to go vacation at. Put that picture near the swimsuit and promise yourself that once you fit into that bikini, you are going on that vacation. Good luck, stay strong, and try to remember that the March 1st bites of any given treat are the best tasting, ergo, the only necessary bites. Confession by Special, Chapter 7424. I hit someone's driver's side mirror off on my street and cleaned it up. Listen, okay, I know it's not good, and I'm freaking out. This no joke happened 5 minutes ago. I-19F was driving up my street in my mom's car. She's got a pretty nice one. It's relatively new, was so close to home, maybe like 5 houses down. My stomach is hurting really bad because I haven't really eaten anything today. I was all in my head thinking about that when I realized I was getting too close to a parked car on the passenger's side. I swerved a bit, but I didn't have enough time and clipped the mirror. It didn't sound good, and I could see my mom's mirror was damaged. I got home and saw that the glass was cracked and was hanging by the wires, and the back was cracked. It looked bad to me, but it was nothing compared to the other car. I walked back a few minutes later. Mirror was knocked clean off, glass was on the ground. The plastic was broken, the thing was unable to be saved. But this is where it gets worse. I panicked and picked up the pieces and dropped them into the nearest trash bin on the street since our pickup was yesterday. So dumb I know, but like I said, I freaked out. Then if it couldn't get any worse, I lied about how it happened. I said someone hit it cause I was parked bad while I was out tonight. I want to come clean, I really do. It's the adult and right decision, but what about the repercussions of that? A possible hit and run, insurance fees my family can't afford, and my mother possibly not trusting me with the car anymore. What if I get caught, there's damage on the mirror, and my mom's mirror that happened on the same night? Doesn't take a genius to put 2 and 2 together. We have a long driveway, so no one sees where my mom parks her car, but what if she sees the other car and starts to think? I'm spiraling, and the stress plus the extreme guilt that this person is gonna wake up, go outside, and find their mirror missing is destroying me already. And Jules off the mountain comes in strong with his or hers reply. I didn't a parked car when I was 19. I was scared because this was the first and only time I had ever been at fault in a car-related incident. It wasn't that big of a dent in hindsight, but my mind was racing. I thought about running away. I could've. It wasn't in my part of town, and I can say with confidence that there were no cameras. I eventually left my number and scurried off home. That night, I got a call from the owner of the car. I kid you not, he said, "Oh, you're a woman. Never mind, I'll fix this one myself. Goodbye," and hung up. I tried calling him back upwards of 10 times, but it seems like he's blocked me. I'm still on my toes because this might be an insurance scam, but it's been 5 years and I think I passed the statute of limitations. Alex has also been a little reckless. When I was 16, I was driving with my cousin in her car and backed up way too fast in a parking lot and hit a car behind me. I have no idea what the damage was because my cousin, who was an adult, told me to drive away immediately. Pretty sure that's what started my bad luck with cars. It's now 10 years later, and I still have a hard time thinking about what condition that person may have found their car in when they returned to it. At the end of the day, I was a kid, and there was nobody to hold me accountable. Call me petty, want the kid to come clean. Best to come clean on this one, kiddo. Ring cameras and the Nextdoor app, where people post videos and ask neighbors if they recognize this vehicle, will likely speed up the neighborhood connection and lead to your mom's also damaged car. It's your mom's car that's going to get you. Scrapes leave paint, and unless the cars are the same color, you're screwed. There are too many events that show the person who hit the neighbor was local, like cleaning up the glass. That isn't something a random hit and run person does without ringing a doorbell to confess. Your mom will likely explain to the neighbor what happened, and she may even make you give your 2-minute apology. In reality, you probably shouldn't drive for a while. That car could have been a kid, and if you're hitting parked things at 19, well, just be glad it wasn't worse. Zvoboles at the uni. What? At the age of 18, I was parking at my uni ready to get to class. I was getting out as usual, and I always fix my hair when getting out the car, and looking back, I shouldn't left my door open. Then a burst of wind came and swung my door open, hitting another car. I was so scared and didn't know what to do. It made a small scratch on the door, but nothing big. It was the size of a penny, maybe less. Anyways, I left the scene and went to class, and I hope nobody saw. But I was paranoid because there was lady saying "excuse me ma'am" in her car, and I don't know if she was talking to me. 10 minutes later, I went back outside and moved my car. Karma got me though. Someone scratched my car door a couple months later. The lesson I learned was to not leave my door open and hold it tight when it's windy. Now we get to the next confessions about miscarriage and stuff. Confession by L0T1 Ta. I went on a bender after figuring out I might have been pregnant and caused my own miscarriage. This had happened a few months ago, so timing might be a little off. This is also my first time using Reddit, so apologies. I'm not quite sure how everything works yet. I am 17 and a child of a teen mom. Not long after a breakup with my long-term boyfriend, I was not in the right mindset and needed a distraction. I slept with my coworker and tried to be careful but didn't use protection. I already knew a mistake was made. I just wanted to feel something, even for a couple of minutes. After a couple of weeks, I started feeling uneasy in the mornings and felt some firmness around my pelvic area as well as my period being late. I doubted the possibility and just started partying a little more than usual. My friends and coworkers at the time assumed my drinking was from my breakup and didn't pay any mind. After a little more time, I noticed some bloating and started to genuinely freak out. This caused me to spiral and start to drinking heavily and cause damage to my abdomen, like purposely running into tables and punching myself. After some time of this constant punishment, I noticed bleeding and blood clotting that was consistent for a few days. During this time, I was a wreck. I had terrible cramps, and the whole thing made me go into a deep depression. I knew what I did was bad and that it would haunt me for a while. After everything was done and my next period came and went, I still thought about my non-existent/potential baby. What if I didn't go out of control? If it was going to be a boy or girl, etc. I know I don't want children, now or ever, but I had a dream that I was playing with this little girl. She was maybe around May 6th, calling me mama and such, which is the whole reason I needed to get this off my chest. I know I should have taken a test, but I was so overwhelmed and I thought that if I never took a test, I wouldn't have the confirmation I dreaded. I'm so used to being alone and doing everything myself that I thought I could fix my mistake alone. I never told anyone what happened. Why? I'm not sure, and I don't think I ever will. Edit. I just wanted to answer some of the questions I've seen in the comments. I know some were concerned about the age of my coworker. He was older than me, being 20 at the time, and yes, I know that was wrong and I have addressed it in my life. Others were wondering about my mom involvement during my bender and my childhood. My mom does have some mental health issues and she was not very present while I was growing up, and she struggled a lot with her own addictions and such. In no way am I blaming her or using this as an excuse. I was a very sheltered child and didn't have access to sex ed until around the beginning of HS, but due to some family stuff, I was never actually educated on the subject. My mom is much better now and works most of the time. She allows me to drink, but I've only ever drank with her before my bender. I'm not a big drinker, and it's not something I'm interested in doing in the future. I am planning to do to the doctors to make sure everything is okay. The situation was stressful and I take full responsibility for my actions and use this as a learning lesson. I have since done my best to educate myself on sex and all its variables. Thank you to those who educated me and for the kind words. I like Reddit, and privacy comes with a handy advice. Opie, I would go a doctor and only mention feeling different and the bleeding/clotting. I'm not sure where you live, but what you did could get you arrested and fined in some places. I'm not saying it should be that way. That's just the climate in some places. Take care of yourself while being smart about your local and national laws. I know it may be comforting to hear that you likely didn't cause a miscarriage by going on a bender, but that's not the only consideration regarding your actions. Choose your words carefully and be mindful of any marks that may be left behind. Nothing is ever a true guarantee, but blunt force trauma to the abdomen has been proven to lead to pregnancy loss in some cases. That includes times when that physical trauma is the result of an accident, automobile collision, fall, etc., a form of abuse, or self-inflicted. This is backed by plenty of evidence that's easily researchable, though Elle would think twice about researching that on anything linked to you right now. I'm sure you're at least partially aware of this, hence you using such a tactic. You absolutely need to make sure you are okay, and see if you are in fact currently pregnant. It doesn't sound like you have signs of an infection from a partially passed miscarriage, but bodies can do weird things. Seek care wisely in a way that will not compound your trauma and potentially destroy part of your life. Calm, Victory 1146 comes with some comfort. You didn't cause your miscarriage. If it was that easy to end a pregnancy, abortion wouldn't be such a huge deal. Pelvic firmness isn't an early pregnancy sign, and in early pregnancy, the fetus is like a sesame seed in a jar of peanut butter. You're not hurting it by hitting your stomach on things. Miscarriage is very common and not easy to induce without very specific medications. A deleted member had this to say. Sad face. I'm sorry this happened. As a 19-year-old who has an abortion last year, I did the same thing. When I found out I was pregnant, I tried to get rid of it any way that I could. You're not a bad person. You're a child dealing with an adult situation. Use this opportunity to learn about safe sex and the importance of taking it seriously, and then forgive yourself every now and then. I will be walking to class or by myself, and I'll feel like there is a little boy walking next to me. Sometimes I'll catch myself picturing a life with this baby and toddler, and it makes me cry. You're not alone. One day you can have a child if you want to, but for now focus on yourself. You have a lot going for you in this life. While Tales 954 might believe you even were pregnant, it's also entirely possible you weren't pregnant. Stress can delay your period, and heavy drinking will make you bloated. We'd need more info here. How late was it? How long after your period did you have sex? Feeling uneasy after a night of drinking could also be a hangover. There's just more information needed to suggest a pregnancy. And if it was, I'd highly recommend see doctor visit to make sure you're not still pregnant. I had bleeding early on in my pregnancy, and I'm currently sitting in bed with my 2-year-old. Bleeding doesn't always indicate miscarriage. OK_feeling_87 has some nice views. Having a miscarriage is a traumatic experience, no matter the precipitating factors. Please know that most early miscarriages are due to uncontrollable factors like genetics. And there are many women who do dangerous things early in pregnancy, including binge drinking, because they don't even know they're pregnant yet, and go on to have perfectly healthy pregnancies. What I'm saying is, it likely wasn't your fault. Either way, I'd recommend therapy because going through this alone is not fun, speaking from personal experience. There are many easily accessible online therapist options these days. If it's expensive or you don't like the idea, consider just doing 1 or 2 sessions. It might feel better just to talk to a person in real life about this. Haunted Bits and Bobs post this. If you were pregnant, it's possible that your miscarriage was the result of genetic abnormalities rather than your drinking, especially that early. Unless recurrent miscarriages became an issue in your future, you will likely never be able to be sure that you were actually pregnant and your symptoms weren't something like a cyst. If you do have repeat miscarriages in the future, that would make it more likely that there's an underlying health issue which wouldn't be your fault. Try to give yourself some grace. You were clearly having a hard time before whatever happened here, and the belief you had a miscarriage is just compacting the pain you were already in. You cannot change what happened, but you can take care of yourself, so if kids are in your future, you can be a healthy and capable parent to them. Bandit_watermelon that are worried about other consequences with all right. Every time I read something like this, it's like people are more concerned about a pregnancy than they are the very real, terrible, and potentially permanent other consequences of not making protection a priority when having sex. Partners who respect you want to protect you, and if they respect themselves will also protect themselves from all of the unwanted things, not just babies. If they are willing to sleep with you unprotected when they barely know you, they are willing to do the same with other strangers. Young women, love yourself more. It can be awkward. You want to make them happy, but being stuck in OP situation or worse, having HPV or HIV forever is going to put a real damper on your romantic life and your health. Getting something like chlamydia isn't as permanent, but if you are scared of going to a doctor over a potential pregnancy and ignore symptoms, or don't get tested regularly, it can fuck your reproductive system up in a way that makes it hard if not impossible to have a baby later on if you want to do that in the future. These skinny dick teen boys probably aren't even going to know you for long. Don't let them impact your forever like this. Timperbell, and I quote, "It was very likely that you weren't actually pregnant. You can't exactly cause a miscarriage, just like nothing you can do can prevent it. Unless you literally took some kind of med/drugs that are not viable for pregnancy, I don't think hitting your stomach that early, or even drinking, could even have any impact on miscarriage possibility. It isn't possible to feel any firmness in your stomach area for a good few months. That is not something that would be an indicator of pregnancy in the first few months at all. Even hitting yourself in the stomach, the uterus and growing fetus would still be tucked behind your pelvic bones and not able to be reached like that. That being said, if you were pregnant, you didn't cause the miscarriage. If it happened, just due to the risks of early pregnancy. But it is very likely that you were not pregnant at all. So either way, there is no need for you to feel any guilt. Rest assured that nothing would have been any different had you not done those things. Glory in the flower, comfort by telling that other can make baby fine. Well, listen, honey, there are women who smoke meth or shoot H and drink and smoke cigarettes their entire pregnancy and end up having perfectly healthy babies. It's unfortunate that women choose to do this during their pregnancies, but the human body is really good at protecting a baby and helping the baby develop under all kinds of conditions when you're that early on. Drinking is very unlikely to cause a miscarriage. Most people don't even know they're pregnant at that point and drink not realizing it. And if it was as easy as running into a table or punching yourself in the stomach to cause a miscarriage, then women being able to have access to abortions wouldn't be such a huge deal. It's not easy to induce a miscarriage unless your body chooses to do so on its own. You have abdominal muscles that protect your womb, and your womb is literally meant to protect a baby. So getting hit there early on isn't going to cause a miscarriage most of the time. I do think you should take an actual pregnancy test or go to the doctor, because even if you're bleeding, you could still be pregnant. A lot of women bleed in the first trimester. Or if you did have a miscarriage, you might need a D&C to prevent infection. Go easy on yourself. Give yourself some grace. You're young, you were scared, drinking a lot, and not in a good state of mind for those reasons. Can't say more than this grandpa chic does. I'm already seeing comments shaming you for your decisions, even before the potential pregnancy, so I just want to say that it is okay to make mistakes. You were young and you were learning. We have no idea what your upbringing was, but you may have not been given the tools to handle any piece of this situation correctly: the breakup, the casual sex, the potential pregnancy, etc. You may never be fully at peace not knowing if you were actually pregnant, but you can try to find peace knowing you are not now, although others have recommended getting checked by a doctor just in case, which is good advice. I saw something once where someone was discussing the struggle of deciding whether or not to have kids, and they said something to the effect of, if you do or if you don't, you won't regret your decision. If you had been pregnant and you carried to term, you'd probably find so much joy and love in having a kid. But it would be incredibly hard at such a young age, and you'd have plenty of challenges, of course. You not being pregnant means you don't have to support a human life as a still kid, and you have so much left in life to enjoy. It's okay to feel sad about what might have been or have regrets or guilt, but ultimately you cannot change any of this. Try to accept the reality of your current situation, be grateful for what you learned, and move forward as a stronger person who will make smarter choices, especially regarding safe sex. As that's really the most dangerous element of this that is likely to be an obstacle again in the near future. And as a final note, you have to forgive yourself for what may or may not have happened with the pregnancy, for the decisions prior, for the guilt and uncertainty after. It's hard, it will take time, but try to have grace for yourself. This is a very, very hard and confusing situation, especially at your age. Post by Slutty Tree Hugger. Stories like this is why I'm constantly worrying about my 17 years old sister. As a woman who was once a stupid 17 years old girl myself, I strongly advise you not to continue to engage in this behavior, and not BC I think there's anything morally wrong premarital sex. But just BC you're so young, and it seems you don't have the education or resources to properly handle a stressful situation that can result from premarital sex, like accidental pregnancy. Being sexually active can also increase your risk for UTIs, BV, and yeast infections, all of which need to be addressed by a doctor. And then there are STIs, which are far more common than I realized at 17. You need to be using protection and checking for STIs in pregnancy when you think there's a possibility for either. And there are some STIs that you can contract just from skin to skin contact, like herpes and HPV, both of which are very common and have no cure. And just BC your partner says they're fine and they don't have any symptoms, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have any STIs. Men are statistically less likely to experience symptoms than women are. Furthermore, hurting yourself and doing drugs/drinking will only add to problem rather than make anything better. Do your research, make educated decisions, and take care of yourself.
Thank you for watching and listening in. If I may be so bold, it would help much if would hit that subscribe button so I can continue do videos. Also make sure to leave a comment and a like if you did enjoy it. Many thanks.